it, and I'm going to resume the recording here. Okay, we are all set.
Recording in progress.
Okay. So, business of research might be okay. Yeah, continuing with what's going to appear in your inbox. Um, the next is the slides that we managed to finish up, things that we added. That's going to be there also. So everything is up, will be updated, sort of. So all you have to do is to go in your inbox, open up, and the recordings. The most important thing that will show up as links, which you can use for at least 1 year. It's going to stay put the way they are set, and for the lectures that we weren't or you weren't able to attend, those would be actually will be coming from the previous batch that I covered, and I'll add those to the recording. So that way you will have everything to do with CIRS course that's in the shape of a complete package. So that's what's going to appear on Monday. Tuesday is going to be the last class. If any one of you are not able to attend, just let me know. So Monday and Tuesday, I believe, per schedule we had sent out, there was last two classes. So in the last two classes, we will be covering internet law, and what we probably won't be able to cover is something that I'm going to show you, so you know what you will have to read through or depend on the previous lectures that I gave for previous batch. The area will be left without completion is web search, data types, data collection, and sampling methods. Um, and that includes a certain type of surveys, which is this part. So web search, data types, data collection, and sampling will have two aspects to it. One is data collection analysis, and the other is the sampling methods. All of these are in the book, so it won't be like very difficult for you to read through. And I would be available for assisting you for CIRS exams. That means once you get done with your practice questions, and if you feel that you have scored 80% or higher, that means you're ready for the final exams. My intention is to give you the finals along with the practice tests, and I'll increase the embargo or the restriction of 90 days to 120 days. That way you would be able to attempt it, with given a lot of time for you to pass the exam. So let's start with the business of research right now. And Kian, before I forget, did you get a chance to attempt the practice questions or any of those questions? Kian, you there? I can't hear you, Kian. Your voice is not coming. I, I'm not able to hear you.
Uh, I'm going to try again.
Okay, it's coming up back. It's coming back. I can hear you now.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I do apologize. I didn't get a chance to review some of the questions. It's been quite busy.
Okay.
I've been searching actually to create time to get in there, but didn't get a chance. My apologies.
Not a problem.
So yes,
That's okay. That's okay. So we're going to go through some of the important definitions, starting with the business of research. We're going to move fast today, so you will have to really be able to, um, if unless there is a question, I will just keep rolling. Okay.
Okay.
What
Thank
is
you.
internet research? Like when we are talking about research, and we are specifically mentioning internet, the word itself, It means that it is something that would be considered purely internet research if any information is coming from World Wide Web. The definition says that relevant and reliable online information. So, relevance and reliability are the two factors whenever you are looking through the definitions. And the definitions I've mentioned here are precisely the ones that you'll get in the exam. There is no other reason. I hate definitions. I don't like it myself personally. I feel that it is like taking us back to school days. But the important fact in this is that because these are conceptual, and if you understand some of the words that are embedded inside of the definitions, you will not have to remember the entire definition, rather, some of the words or the meaning of the words. Like relevant and reliable. So, what is relevant and what is reliable? This is what you have to work on. Who is an internet research specialist? Internet research is skilled in performing effective and efficient web searches on time with an acceptable level of accuracy. So basically, backing up the previous definition, and effective and efficient web searches means that you understand the all the aspects of how the search engine behaves and how to build those search queries, so that you have a concept of implied and explicit context very clearly understood. Who is a certified internet research specialist? Is a designation bestowed anyway. This is more on the marketing side from us. It's very simple, nothing major here. But when we are talking about what is the role of a CIRS, perhaps you want to look at this a little bit more deeper. So, role of CIRS, when you get the credentials, hopefully you will sooner or later, you independently perform expert level search and research on World Wide Web and use specialized skills in collecting information both legally and following acceptable research methods and methodology of traditional research industry. So to make it more easy for understanding, the elements that are highlighted here for the role of a CIRS is that you're going to obtain the information legally. So the question might be in the exam, out of so many multiple choice answers, it might be like what would be attributed as the important role of a CIRS, and then it would say should obtain information legally. It can obtain any kind of information from the web. Um, does not have to verify information, just collect the information. So it's going to mislead you. But if you understood what is meant by legally obtaining, when we are going to cover the internet law, we will be specifically mentioning what are certain restrictions, legalities, obligations, certain do nots, or certain type of information that requires a permission, especially on human subjects. So all that involves legality, and legal issues will be discussed. So legally obtained acceptable research method means that it should have a kind of a foundation that talks about the collection, data collection methods, for example, the analytics or the analysis methods or methodology you have adopted. Now, don't mix research methods with analytics alone. Research is a broader term. Analytics is what is considered as part of research methods. So when you are looking at data analyst or someone who has done a specialization in financial analysis and so on, all that means is that for whatever expertise they have gained, they still have to follow standard research method, which means pointing out the population that you will target for collecting data, and then from within the population, the sample sizes you will pick, because sampling is the most important part. You have to justify to what extent you have obtained those samples and justify the objectivity of those samples you have collected. So that will be covered in research methods and methodology. That's all we have to know. Next, we will be aware of certain aspects of how the practical implementation, or how you would perceive yourself as someone who is in the market, working as an independent consultant, offering your research services, what would be the attitude both from the client side, or what would be the client's expectations, and how far you should be prepared or you should be equipped to have the basics or fundamentals covered. Now, as an entrepreneur, Akintola can tell that there are obviously different aspects to building a business. But to establish a different type of business means that now you're shifting your focus and all your strength and your capabilities that are to be presented, or the services that you're going to package, will matter a lot. And you have to have some sort of a baggage behind you that says that you're capable of delivering services, or the reassurance and the perception, these two parts that you have to be careful about. So as an entrepreneur, you have to know certain elements of importance that are the minimum expectations or minimum requirements for you to bring yourself out in the market as an independent consultant. Now, questions that we will start with is, am I ready to offer online research work? That is for you to ask yourself, and not for the client to answer for you. So you are the one who will take charge of this part and look at your assets, your qualifications, your whatever else that is mentioned right here, and we will discuss all these elements one by one. There are two type of researches that you can offer. One has to be attributed to someone who is a generalist in terms of offering consulting services for research only means that you're capable of searching for anything that is out there without having any specific expertise. The only expertise you will bank on is your capability to collect information using creative methods which others may find difficult to use, or for which you can differentiate yourself from others. So that generalist is someone who can also be, in terms of work occupation, could be a virtual assistant as well. So, for subject expert knowledge, or someone who has a specific knowledge in the industry or a target market that you have figured out would bring you the right clients, or you have connections in that industry, would put you in the right place. Of course, it has to be backed by your professional experience and your qualifications. So, what the generalist does and what are opportunities being a generalist is the kind of question that is asked mostly uh, in my experience when I'm teaching these subjects. So, I'll explain a little bit more on generalist opportunities. The difference between knowledge expert and generalist in terms of the opportunities is that as a generalist you can get some quick contracts, or it's slightly easier because you have a la carte offerings, and therefore it could be something that you will end up getting much earlier than the one that for which you have expertise for in subject matter. So we will look at what these type of offers are out there which are ready for you to grab. That means you can start with it like the next day. Where to search for information on the internet? So you have to present yourself, of course, in a way that the differentiator or the value proposition you will deliver to your client expressly mentions that you have the ability to find or go to certain websites or certain information portals that others may not have access to, only because you have a knowledge. It's like you having a map, or if you're traveling, going somewhere on vacations, and you have a guide or a map in front of you, and you know where to go looking at the map. But map is what you are, you being the one who knows where to go to find certain type of information. So that saves a lot of time for the client, and it brings a lot of opportunities for you. So this differentiator has to be expressed. Remember, I told you about certain websites like Open Corporates, ICIJ, for company research, or finding some or discovering assets and that kind of work. So, how to search for relevant and reliable information? Relevance and reliability, these are two different things. We haven't covered this part, but apparently in the exams that will show up off and on. So, Lorraine just joined us. Hi, Lorraine. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you for making it to the class today. We have started with the business of research, and we are continuing with this, and I'll fill you in with what you missed a little bit
Okay.
later. So we're just
That's fine.
going through a question which says the readiness. It's basically describing what brings the readiness to your online research business. So, some of the aspects or elements of what is identified as the fundamentals that you have to put together to put the show out there is what we are discussing right now. We talked about the two types of experts or the knowledge offerings that you can give through your presentation on website or wherever. It is a sort of a distinction between two areas. One is what we call expert knowledge or a background that you have, a specialization, and then as a generalist, what type of expectation you can have if you offer your services as a generalist. How would the market respond, and what is covered in being a generalist, like what is more popular researches that are outsourced these days, where to search for information on the internet, knowing or having a directory of where to go find certain type of information and not to be lost, meaning that you have created some sort of directory, or you know your way to where to get certain information data. How to search for relevant and reliable information. Now, relevant and reliable are the two words which will come in often in CIRS exam, and they would like to know if you have a good understanding of what is relevant, considered relevant for collecting information, and then what is the reliability factor. So from the words you can obviously tell what it means, because literally relevant means that it is relevant to the subject, or it is objective enough that you won't be wasting your time on something which may not be as relevant or may not be relevant at all. So relevance to the objective of your search, scope of your research. Reliability is another thing that you will count on based on your experience or based on your ability to cross reference and check and find, I guess, the type of information that can be verified for the source of where it's coming from. So, relevance and reliability, two words. How to identify fake and biased information. I know that you have not actually, we have not covered anything that is more focused in the area of doing some forensics or checking on, say, any news source for reliability, or for any of the fakes that are floating around in social media. So that is a subject of its own. And sometimes we call it OSINT. Otherwise, from our end, we'd like to present a similar view as you see in OSINT under the heading Online Investigative Research. So this book is what, and by the way, since you missed out on a few things I mentioned and they are important, on Monday you will find a lot of content, a lot of information in your Dropbox. And I'd suggest that you look it up Monday to see some of those folders that were empty before, they'll be filled in. And you will see some books that I will put in there. One of them would be Online Investigative Research, and the others which I have, I can share with you. It is not considered, those books are not like the kind that you will find easily, and the reason I'm sharing it with you is, I guess, is because they're free books if you are a member somewhere. So without disclosing the source of it, I would say that it is not It's not like a book that you would be copying or making sets of it and then sort of distributing. So because it is the kind of books that I feel that I can share with you, only assuming that you won't really go ahead and then start redistributing it to your friends. So just keep
Right.
that in mind. I'll just add three books from my side, and then an additional book which is online investigative research, and that is going to cover this area and how to identify fake and biased information. Okay. Then we've
Thank
got,
you, Dr. Mansour.
yes, you're welcome. How to collect, tabulate, organize, analyze, and present information. Now, this is a subject which is taught if you are a librarian or someone coming from the background similar to that of Lorraine. Lorraine knows, if there is some sort of research involved, that means collection of raw data and structuring it properly, putting it into tables, or running some sort of software to turn it into a more actionable information, as in reports of some sorts. That kind of subject is covered here. So if you are getting in the market and you are just assuming that just the fact that you can collect information on or know where to get it from is not the end of your research, that's just the beginning. So when you have the information in front of you, the art of organizing that information in a meaningful reports, or sort of making an impact by creating visual charts out of it, is another art or another kind of, but these days, we've got a lot of softwares that do it for us. So it is not like we have to revert back to the basic Excel sheets anymore. You can use Excel sheet as a data collection, um, but to be able to use the correct software for it to generate certain type of specialized reports, like SWOT analysis, which is in marketing language is used as fundamentals to look at your competitor for and evaluating your own strengths, and then compare it with what is out there, and sort of a kind of analysis, which we call SWOT, or strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. So this is something that you have to ask yourself or learn on your own, because it's not part of the CIRS course. However, a part of it covers it, which means when we look at the research method, you will see that we are covering the area of collecting online information through surveys, through virtual forums, and social experimentation, and so on. So that would be one thing that would help you in this area. The other part would be analytics, or what type of analysis are out there, so that you're familiar with at least some of those that are commonly used, because there could be so many different type of analysis. Ricardo is there. Ricardo, is your mic open? Can you talk? You've been quiet. I thought
Yes.
I'd ask you this question. So, in your analysis or in your tabulation data collections, do you actually create any charts or create any reports? Anything that you can share with us quickly right now?
We don't do charts. It's much more just collecting data for the clients that we are catering. So it's
Okay.
much more a background information.
Okay, so it's not
There's
a
no
complete
specific
research. Without
percentages.
having the ability to tabulate, organize, analyze information sets, you are not really, you cannot call yourself as online research specialist or CIRS, or for that matter, anyone who is supposed to be delivering research reports. So, investigative reports are separate from research reports, and that's where Ricardo is mentioning that they're more on the investigative side, and not much on the analysis. How to write research reports and derive inferences. And in this chapter, or in this topic, we will be covering or showing you some examples of research reports, so you can actually find them as a reference, and basically just ensure that certain type of information or certain sets of data are presented in your research as a mandatory requirement, or as fundamentals of how you would present your opinion, or at least create enough sort of analysis there, or bring enough data after your research that your client is able to infer or come up with conclusions, or it would have the ability to make decisions based on your research report. So research report writing is another sort of specialization. I wouldn't call it specialization, but rather part of the work that you will deliver as an independent online researcher. Ability to conduct online investigative research work, which means that I am again going back to how to identify fake and biased information, would somehow will have a connection with online investigative research work. Now, online investigations can be of several different types. Here, I'm not talking about OSINT. I don't know if you know what that is. It's open source intelligence. It's called open source intelligence, and this is, a kind of um, you can just not or invest kind of investigation that involves all sorts of areas of investigation for online research, and somehow it has elements which complement what we teach in the online investigative research. So online investigative research and OSINT have our brothers and sisters, siblings kind of. But the important part is that understanding if the kind of work you will get, which requires for you to do background checks or to do investigations as Ricardo does or his company does, or you have to do some sort of verification of information, that means to authenticate an information, that is another kind of work that sort of comes in the category of online investigative research, and so on. So that part you will have to decide if you will offer. If you don't offer it, and some of the research require you to have some expertise in this area to not only collect information but also to verify certain information, and at times discover certain information. So for that reason, you may want to look at it as a part of your offering, or a gap that you would rather fill in to offer complete service as a researcher or independent consultant for information. Familiarization of important cyber laws and ethical issues of the internet. This will play a large role in your ability to safeguard your own business, and of course to ensure that you are not taking any unnecessary risk, or entering into any sort of information collection that may not be supported by law or could be considered breach of privacy. So these are the laws that you should be familiar with. And another reason why you learn the cyber laws is to protect yourself when you are getting into a contractual relationship with your client. So what is involved in the contract, and what are some of the elements without which the contract would not only be unlawful but could be invalid. So those have to be considered as well in under cyber law. um, and then ethical issues are an important aspect, which is something that is not covered extensively in CIRS, but the meaning of how the ethic, or what are the different types of ethical issue. Ethics means your in short, it means that how are you going to conduct, let's say, surveys if there's a human subject involved. What would be the ethics of collecting information from certain sources, the use of your information, how you would use it so that it is not considered um, as a I guess a breach in the IP or intellectual property of someone, or you're not conducting certain type of research using dark net or illegal means of collecting certain information. So ethics means methods of collection of information, as well as nature of information that you are accessing, and how it plays or has a relationship with legalities of uh, the law of the land, or wherever you are. Every country is different, so this will be subjective, and at the same time, we'll stick to the North American side and look at the laws in Canada and US. Sound knowledge of conventional research methods and methodology. I was mentioning to rest to everyone here, Lauren, that certain things we weren't able to cover with the fiasco, with the, I guess, with missing uh, some of the opportunities for taking the class and for me to give the class. So what is left is an area which is going to be under the main heading or main category of traditional research methods. These include web search, data types, what are different data types, data collection methods, and sampling methods. This is explained in the charts, which is obviously is are there in the book, and I would say that you may have to go through these to understand what is qualitative and what is quantitative data. um, the different types of quantitative data, different types of qualitative data, um, and then sampling methods. There are different types of sampling methods: probability sampling, non-probability. Then we've got an area that covers how to conduct online surveys. How do you put the questions together, or what sort of questions come into these different type of categories, and methods that are adopted in doing surveys. What are survey types, and that's all. So this is the part which I'm just referring to is left, and I don't think we'll have time to cover it, because between today and tomorrow we'll finish up business of research, and on Monday and Tuesday I'm just going to do internet law and ethics. So let's just try to finish it between today and tomorrow. Business of research is what we are after for the next 2 days. Now, continuing with this, okay, let's how to perform precision search with query operators notations, knowledge of specialized online search and research tools, utilities, and specialized search engines. For this area, you can safely use and basically rely on the reference books that are there for you, which is giving you an itinerary of specialized tools. All you have to do is to just get familiar with them and find some that are your favorites, or the ones that you feel that comfortable with using, so you can basically skim through or go through the reference book and find your favorites and put it in your bookmarks. So this is where you are going to make a checklist to see if you are ready for online research work, all these things right here. Okay. Next is why would the client hire you? What would be the expectations of a client? And typically, it is a matter that we face off and on. Whenever we are working with a client or the client approaches us, there are reasons for the client to come back to us or to work with us, and some of the reasons that makes them feel comfortable are mentioned here, and perhaps you can apply the same when you are offering your services and sort of cover or consider the mindset of a client or potential opportunity. And this is where we are going to look at what is the experience in industry or subject knowledge. A lot of times I get a question where they say that you what if we just started new in the business, how are we supposed to cover this and to get the experience if we just started? So this is like a catch 22 always in any kind of situation or business that you start with initially. Even when you take up a job for the first time, they ask you what sort of experience you have. So first of all, your experience and subject matter that you are familiar with, subject that you have contacts in, or the industry you have served previously helps a great deal, because you build contacts and kind of knowledge that you have. People know that, so it is easier. What are the previous work references? Can we trust giving business information? This is more important, and there is usually a question in the exam. How valuable or what kind of weightage would you put on the trust factor from the client side in giving you information? Because remember, while you are engaged or the client is giving you the opportunity to work with them, they are basically exchanging information constantly. It's not like a one way street. A research work usually involved a continuous engagement or working back and forth with the person on the client side and yourself. And for that reason, it means that there will be a lot of disclosures and information exchanges. Some information will be provided by the client, others you will collect. And in that way, client is concerned about the privacy and the confidentiality factor. Second thing that would concern the client when it comes to business information is that if you are not going to share that information with the competitor, or the kind of research you are doing for them will not be actually duplicated or given to their competitors, and there could be many other things, who knows. But important part is your credibility for the client to learn that you would have not only the contract in place that puts a responsibility on you to protect that information, but also for you to okay, how should I explain this? The part where the um, information is brought from third party. Let's say you are collecting information from subscription source. Um, you have to disclose the source of information and what efforts or what type of information is coming and from what source. Is it a primary or a secondary source? Is that data reusable, or that piece of information has got any legal issues or contracts under which you got that data? And a lot of times when we are collecting it from a source, they give us, or we sort of sign an undertaking that says that we won't be reusing that piece of information, or the information we collected is going to be used for a certain type of research or for certain reasons. And that kind of is a cause of concern as well, so you have to give that disclosure. Third thing is that you also have to sometimes reuse or build something on top of an information that you've collected as base information. And for that reason, you want to disclose the kind of contract that you have with the source for collecting that information, where you are allowed to use it in a certain way or to a certain extent. Then we've got, can we count on information and data reliability? That is connected to the same thing, like a reliability factor. You have to disclose if it is a primary source or a secondary source of information. If it is a secondary source of information, then there are methods which require for you to verify certain or to verify the origin of that information, if that is what is required. Because based on the numbers or the information you've collected, the client would rely on your method of collection as well. So in case if it is a survey that you've conducted, they want to make sure that it is a real survey, like or if it is a social media observation which is of qualitative nature, that means the decision that a researcher makes based on observation, let's say, would mean that it is going to be discretionary for someone to evaluate factors like sentiments, factors like which is what is under or considered qualitative. That means it is not a number, or it is not affirmative distinction between yes and no, select one or two, but rather it is subjective, based on how you feel, based how a researcher made the decision or collected that information or made that observation. So that is a qualitative zone, and it is more complicated, and it depends on how much the client would rely on your experience from, and your being non-biased about certain matters. So if you are doing
May I?
research work, you have to be very, very careful about, uh, you know not being biased or having an opinion or having some sort of preconceived notion about anything. Basically, you have to go really neutral in order to work with this. Yes, there's a question.
So, yes, so Dr. Bajur, in this case, it takes me to documentation of contracts. In other words, let's say if I did this, could I have three documents? One document says is a non-disclosure. So whatever information they provide for me that says this is company proprietary information,
Mhm.
if I sign that non-disclosure, that means I am giving them a contract that says I'm not sharing their information with anyone. The number two is another document that says all the research that I did for them can only be guaranteed by the data I've had access to through the internet, where I feel confident that it was verified data. And the other one says, the number three says, another contract that says uh, all information gathered is through internet, but no guarantees as to the validity of the and or proof of the data collected.
Mhm. So, for that reason, I have actually put in the book samples of contracts that you will find as typically used in the industry. And
Those are very good.
this is a market research agreement. Okay. And I don't want you to reuse it or to use this one. This is meant to be a sample, and this is a real project document. So it's not like it's created just because it is only a sample, but rather it's coming from real contract that we engage when we engage with the client. And some of the disclosures that are there, or the ones that pertain to the information, are clauses like confidentiality of confidential information, are clauses like disclaimers. Okay. um, Intellectual property, what is considered intellectual property, both in terms, because here we are discussing three parties. We are discussing the relationship of information exchange between you and the client, and between you and the source from where you've collected the information, and it's passing on to the client. So between you and your source. So basically this contract is identifying to a certain extent the relationship you've had with the source or certain type of information that can be used in a certain way. That is also to be mentioned in the contract. So this information is passed on to the client as something which is coming as a promise of use of that information between you and the client, because obviously from the source wherever you collected it from, you have given them or you have gotten permission of with certain restrictions, rights and obligations that remain intact for even passing it on to your client as a purpose or use of that information. So all that has to be culminated and put together in a contract between you and the client, because this contract is something that you can work with um, or negotiate with the client. But usually with 99% I would say of the time, when you're collecting it from the source, or wherever you have gotten the permission to use that information from, is non-negotiable. It is all standardized and you have to agree to that, as by default, or let's say by the reason of paying for it as subscription or as a price for collecting that information. Usually it is a standard contract. The use of that information is standard, non-negotiable. So all you have to do is to be really more concerned about the disclosure of how that information is to be used and under what agreement it can be used. If you collect something and you're saying, what was the question, the last one you said that if you can use the information as something that is actually what you said something, Kian, about use of
That
information.
was yes. Simply stating the fact that what information was gathered by one's research using the internet uh, was what was presented through the internet. However, the researcher cannot guarantee uh, the data.
Yes, you use the word guarantee. So, whenever you are disclosing the source as being primary or secondary, that disclosure is considered or it's assumed to have been enough for the user of that information, being your client, to know that what is considered primary information is guaranteed, and what is secondary is never guaranteed. So inherent definition, or the kind of distinction that you make between what is considered primary and secondary source of information would relay that message if your client understands these terminologies. Similarly, if it is a qualitative data that you have collected, or something that shows trends of some sort, or observation, or there is a forum that you have used or created, like in a virtual sense, we're talking about computer or internet gathered information, that sort of creates an issue for the client to learn what type of methods you have adopted in designing certain information, or converting that qualitative aspect of information into some sort of identifiable or quantifiable method that would eventually allow for the client to use that information, like so that it can be utilized in datas and charts and so on. So methods of collecting qualitative observation would have its own shortcomings and advantages. Even when you're doing social experiments, and it is a large part of how people are conducting certain type of experiment, even in clinical research, psychologists are doing social science students are doing it, social media is actually delivering that set of information through certain analysis or charts they're offering. If you go online and if you're on your Facebook account, you will watch that it is giving out graphs and giving out certain pieces of information which are of qualitative nature. So how you're going to uh, to use those charts, or whether or not that information which is coming, let's say, from the seasonal aspects of certain likes and dislikes of a product, or a trend of some sort which is fashionable or out of fashion, whatever it is, you are collecting the information through the internet using the qualitative data collection techniques, and therefore they are not guaranteed as much as the quantifiable or the quantitative information is collected. So if you're doing surveys, which is quantitative surveys where the answer is definitive yes or no, or make a choice between 1 2 and 3 and so on, which is giving numbers of some sort, or if it is quick polls, those information are quantitative, and you can call it as a primary source of information, or something that can be guaranteed from your side, obviously. And if you were being honest in collecting that information and not doing fake research, because people do have that reputation, certain companies do it for the purposes of let's say lobbying for certain type of products or services, or for the government, and so so you just want to ensure the client that not only that information is primary, or it is also quantified, it is coming from a real research, and you have made so many phone calls, you have numbers and details of those people all logged, the time when you made the call, and then the most important thing is the utilization of that information, which is the last aspect of your collection method. Meaning that if the human subject was involved, if you've collected it from a person, then did you get something they call an informed consent. It is a document which is used in North America, both in US and in Canada, under the law, which means that you need to get express permission from the subject. And for that reason, that form is pretty much standardized now, and it has bunch of questions which sort of covers you from the perspective of privacy and certain ethical concerns that are um, covered in those questionnaires or on those document that you give out as a document of informed consent. Does this cover everything for you? Or
Yes, of course. Thank you.
okay.
So there is always a template for this contract and all this legal ramification when one gets into the business, or do we have to employ a lawyer to draft all this, or how does it work?
Well, I mean, this is a question of how much budget you have. I mean, if I have some money to spare, I would rather involve a lawyer.
Okay.
But if I've had a lawyer and I've used it to I've used him for drafting a contract, which is standard contract that you would be offering to your client. Of course, you can reuse it. But remember, the
Okay.
laws keep changing, and at the same time, attorney fees is it's not it's expensive to get an attorney involved. So for that reason, you will find a sort of neutral contracts or standard contracts. Sometimes we call them sample contracts, and then we've got that you can use, by the way, and you can add certain clauses from the
Uh-huh.
original document that the lawyer prepared from for you from before, or whichever way you want to look at it. I mean, involving the attorney is more important, but a lot of times it is not cost effective, so obviously it is your call. At the same time,
Okay.
certain elements or certain type of information which actually is considered to be the spirit of the contract, that you have to be mindful of. Like certain contracts would in North America would have few things that have to be mentioned. Some of these are standard, others are considered to be most important based on you know um, you know the laws. Like, I mean, research is never the same. Like, I've never seen a research work that is exactly duplicated. There is always a peculiarity, or there is a aspect to it which makes it slightly different from another one. So there is this factor where you may want to look at it carefully, um, to see if you have at least added um, some of the important things, like, let's see, if it is a pricing that you have to disclose, it's important. Timeline is important. That means your commitments. So look at the commitments first, what you are making. And after the commitments you feel are complete, then you're going to present the cost exactly, like how much it's going to be, or agreement to pay. Contract is invalid in spirit if there is no exchange of or there is no transaction, or there is no mutual benefit. That means it can be a barter contract, or it can be quantified or in terms of money. So the price has to be clearly mentioned. Deliverables, or how you're going to deliver it, is most important also. And then comes other aspects like methods you're going to adopt, and everything else that sort of covers or brings all the objectives into action that are part of the scope of your work. So the flow of the document is going to define how you're going to build your contract. The flow starts from the request for quotes. It's called RFQ, and it comes from the client. Once you look at the RFQ, you will notice that the scope is defined or the research problem is identified. Expectation of the client is also given clearly and precisely. But sometimes those RFQs are intentionally very precise or limited or are not extensively explained, and that makes it difficult to come back and put in the price, or come up with the exact pricing. So the pricing you will work with a little bit later, or after you have gone back and forth with the client to get a better explanation or more elaborate version of that scope, which means you should not shy back on engaging with the client and finding out more, as much as you can collect from the client to understand a more detailed part of that RFQ. You would have a better sense of how you will design your contract eventually. Contract doesn't come like right away. The next thing is that you're going to give a proposal after RFQ. RFQ is the second request for quote is the first process. The response to the quote or the proposal that you're going to go to come back with the client is the second document. After that proposal is accepted by the client, the third process obviously is to draw a contract. So by the time you get to the contract, you have pretty much cleared up the clutter or some of the unknowns that are initially coming to you as a scope or the proposed objective of your research. So this is a process and not just like a one-time thing. So it'll go process wise, and it will have different layers to it. As far as answering your question for the contract, it is up to you if you want to adopt something from what you're learning here as a sample contract that is given to you. It's up to you. But to ask a question if the lawyer should be involved, yes, why not? I mean, if you can afford it, good. If not, then you know what to do with it. You would learn better from your experience. Okay.
May I
Yes.
contribute to
Yes.
this very
Thank you.
shortly? Two areas, Akinura, you want to look into regarding legal protection is NOLO Press, NOLO Press. That's more like you're hands on and you're a researcher. You can dig everything out of there and pay for it.
Uh-huh.
And then there's also another system called prepaid legal services. For $25 a month, you can get legal protection. For an extra $10, 35, you can get business legal protection. If you need to know about that, please contact me and I'll put you in contact with someone who can help you out in detail.
Mhm.
Thank you, Kian.
Thank you, sir.
What's happening here? I'm stuck with this. Why is this doing that? Hold on, I'm unable to run this slide. Stuck. I'm just going to close this. I have to reopen it. Seems like something went wrong. Loren, any question from your side? Is it some
No,
information
I'm
that
not. I'm not as. I'm interested in knowledge, but I'm not as interested in starting my own business as I am doing the actual research. I would be more inclined to work for someone or with someone. Um, that's just my personality.
No, that's fine. But at least is it interesting enough so far?
Yes, yes. Though I have to say, I would definitely want to involve a lawyer if I had to do any sort of contracts, because that is the way they word contracts is very difficult.
True. Sometimes you get into a very odd situation where you sign something and later you find out that if the client is not very cooperative, they can really go after you for whatever you got. That's the problem. Okay, so let's take a 5 minutes break. I'm just going to sort few things. I just want to okay, so let's just try to cover up, not cover up, to basically some of the slides. I'm just going to um, reshuffle a little bit. I find that some of the slides we don't require. So this slide here, um, one of the things about getting research work or opportunities is to understand that if you are picking up a certain industry for which you feel that you have ample experience and background and the qualification to do some specialized researches, you would probably want to talk to some of the people in the industry or in the organization that are given certain tasks or certain type of job description they have, allows them to make a decision or for outsourcing certain work of collecting information to save them time, and also for the reason where shareholders might request a third person out of the organization to provide some information to them, or for the banks or for any lenders or investors. You may be having a good chance of getting a contract from those type of people in the organization. So there are two type of informations that they're interested in collecting. One is internal, of course, you being someone from outside may not have access to it. And then there are external reporting. So there are certain types of reports that are exclusively done by independent contractors or outside researchers. So this is where we are going to discuss some of the reports that would require information collection from outside competitors or from others in the same industry. uh, so shareholders data, okay, job descriptions, who are those people or what are their job descriptions. So if you know the job responsibilities of certain titles of the jobs that people hold, you would know where to go and what how much of um, I guess how much of the opportunities are there to get some work from them. And then there are business reports and information reporting. So business reports are different from information reports. Business reports usually have something that allows for the management to make actionable decisions, and information reports are just collecting information and presenting it, not giving enough for or coming up with your own opinion in research work. So that's just information reports. um, the research reports used in businesses are like market research reports, industry trends, social media presence like brand loyalties, and all these are listed here. The reason these are expressed and sort of have become part of your course is because when you are asked to participate in research of some sorts, you should know what reports require what type of information, or if you are able to bring that information to the table for your client. So, market research reports are more common. Some of it is covered by the department's own marketing team. Others are collected from outsiders or by outsiders. A lot of times, marketing people are unable to approach their competitors to get that, you know, competitive intelligence. So they outsource it to other contractors there that are able to collect it for them. um, and then there is SWOT analysis. I told you it's strength, weakness, opportunities, threats. You can participate in these reports. Consumer preferences are most important when you are an internet research specialist, they give you the task to um, to create surveys and to bring information through online surveys or focus groups that you can create, studies, experiments, etc. So this is a list of all of these. Shareholder reports can be of different types. This is just generic headings. You can find different types of reports under the heading of shareholders reports. One of them that I can think of is, let's say, the equity verification or the ratio analysis, comparing it with other industries or similar industries. It could be product related, it could be the market trends, and so on. Business plans is something that is required by most of the lenders, so they might you may want to offer business plans, or you can create business plan as an expert, and for that reason you can collect information from different places. And even the banks and lenders and investors might be interested in asking um, the client to actually look for the third party or outside contractors to build that business plan, so that they can get a non-biased or an independent opinion. So reputation is very important in the business if you are creating business plans. Business valuations is another report that is asked by the shareholders to somehow be able to collect it. These are major headings. Like the kind of work I get in business valuations, for instance, has to do with product analysis, price analysis, business intelligence about their presence in social media. So everything plays a part in business valuation. So there could be like 10 different streams of collecting information for different reasons, but still they combine. You can combine them under the main heading of business valuations. Assets valuations, if you've got a financial background and you are an independent CPA or someone that has the ability to do assets valuation, there are different credentials and different skill sets that you can acquire as an assets valuator. A lot of times even the auctioneers do the valuations as well. So depending on what type of opportunities are there, you can position yourself or package your services under these headings. Then we've got job descriptions, which readily have not only the authority to outsource the work, but also have a work that could, you can call it an overload of work, and they would rather outsource it, like senior business executives, product managers, product designers. Product managers require for you to do product analysis, feature analysis, comparing the market trends or what the market sentiments are on certain products that's just launched or pre-launch, where the production is in the process and design work is going on. At that point, they would require some information, and so on. So this is now the only part which I would like to explain here is the analyst jobs. A lot of times people ask, why would a researcher have to do a job of an analyst? Because analyst or analysis means that you are only going to um, be able to compare figures, numbers, collected information both internally and from outside to somehow be able to analyze it objectively and to create some sort of charts or presentation that makes it easy for the senior management to make a decision. So for that reason, that information gets collected, and there are different flavors of analysis. Some people call themselves business analysts, and there is a different job description for it. Cost analyst required has a different job description, requires certain type of specialization or the background. financial analyst, industry analyst. But as a researcher, you only have to learn what are the different type of analysis, like in a more generic way, rather than being or getting a degree in, let's suppose, in finance or accounting to become cost analyst. If you are conducting a generic research, or you're just doing research which involves collecting information about business, cost, finance, and all that, and that play a role in in making some sort of a decision at a surface level and not being too granular about information sets or data sets, then research would encompass your ability to bring enough data that would allow for it for others, like other analysts in the business, to conduct further analysis based on or adding to what you have delivered as a researcher. So if we look at analysis part, you would find that in terms of research, you should be familiar with the type of or different type of analysis that we call general or generic kind of analysis. I'm going to show you that slide so that you can um, relate to this. Okay. So there is data analysis part in your book that talks about the types of data analysis. We will, as researcher, be more concerned about the source of information that starts the analysis part, which is it going to be the qualitative data or the quantitative data. If it is qualitative data, then you've got these types of analysis that you will be familiar with and put it in your research report, like analytic induction, grounded theory, coding, memoing, and all this that falls under the generic analysis or the general idea of how analysis should be looked at, and you as a researcher would be able to mention it in your proposal, the type of analysis that you intend to do in order for you to produce those results. Then you've got data analysis methods that are explained here as well. So this is the part that sort of connects with what we are talking about. Next, the business management reports. These are the reports that use both internal data and external data. This chart is important because it will give you an idea. If, let's suppose, your client or someone that is asking you to give a proposal on bringing information that they might use in all of these or some of these reports that are mentioned under the main heading, you would have an idea of what it means, or what are the standardized names of the documents or reports that can be labeled under this, or that would have a title that contains those specific information, like campaign effectiveness reports, comparative analysis report, brand research report, consumer insights, and so on under the marketing and sales. So all of these reports may not require external interference because it may just be confined to internal data. But most of these you will see also involves external data or involve the help of external researcher. So knowing all of these names that I've mentioned in this chart, you can look for these reports or under these headings to learn through your own research, to learn what is involved in these reports. And that way you would also be able to identify the data or the information sets that basically allows for these reports to be made. So this is why this chart is important. Like in if any one of you have an IT background or a technical background, you may want to focus on technical background reports or technical feasibility reports. Company research reports means that if a shareholder is asking for equity valuation report, you should know what it means. So because it is not explained in detail, like each of these are not explained in terms of what type of information is involved in this. So you can find it doing Google, and but at least you would know what the keywords are. So you can find what these type of reports require, what type of external data it requires. This way you will be able to create some sort of package or offerings to your clients, to say that you are able to get all this information for them, and that would really make your client feel comfortable, or for you to give a proposal that says that with this package they would be able to use sets of information for certain internal reports and external reports as well. So that's why these are here. And all you have to do is to just learn like what type of reports fall under which heading. So if in the exam their question says, uh, where does the campaign effectiveness report belong, like in terms of which department, so you would know it's going to be marketing and sales, because it is related to sales and marketing campaigns. So campaign effectiveness report would fall under marketing and sales. And similarly, all these headings under which these reports are, it could be a question. In fact, it is a definitive question that's going to be in the exam. That's why I've mentioned it here. Popular research areas in terms of opportunities, the most commonly used or sought after reports, and for which there is a lot of independent researchers offering their services, are these that you are looking at right here. In business areas, it is comparative intelligence, company research, financial research, market and industry research. So if you want to Google these and see what is involved or what type of information is required, you would be able to connect it with the package that you are offering, and knowing that you have the ability to do or find this kind of information. Then you've got other research areas which we call KPO, or knowledge process outsourcing research, which is outsourced readily, and you can think of it as the kind of research that is normally outsourced for cost reasons, as well as for the generalists to offer for getting quick contracts. Mostly these are sales lead generation or sales lead collection, data scraping. Data scraping is finding some sort of information that is identified um, for collecting on the internet, but it may relate to certain pieces of information from websites, like data scraping for telephone numbers, for type of services, like to find opportunities. So when we say data scraping, it means really using an automated process, and there are these softwares. Some of these are marketing people use it, or even sales people use it, and those softwares are sending out bots or small programs that relay, in a more organized way, a trap to collect that information automatically, because it's just going to go all across the internet and look at the web addresses and keywords automatically, and collect that information which you have defined. Then you've got recruitment data search. This is a very uh, important aspect of collecting quick information for recruiters, and a lot of recruiters don't have time, and some of the companies actually engage full time outside help or contractors to collect resumes or opportunities, or for anyone who is whose information is on the internet, and that can be collected as well. And usually it pays a lot of money to collect this information, and people specialize in this. You can use a combination of search tools, as well as use your search queries in a more creative way. If you know how to search for data that helps the recruiters, then you would be able to do a better job than just, because quality, these are all leads related, and it is all quality of leads that matter. So the quality will depend on how tight your search query is, or how uh, your search query is functioning, and to what extent it is bringing more reliable information. Market research data, surveys, polls, focus groups, social media research. Now these again are more broad topics. Social media research could mean so many different things depending on the type of social media research you're doing. One of the research people do is called reputation management, which means that if somebody has given their reviews, opinions, or negative opinions, then you would be able to catch that and rectify it. That's one approach. The second approach could be that someone has given false information or intentionally put an information out there which could be misleading. Then you should be able to to correct it for your client by writing letters to the source where it's presented and so on. So there could be so many opportunities. It just depends on how, on what type of packages you are putting out there on your website for your business. Market research is just, one of the more common areas, and there is a, obviously there is a, a very proper job description for market researchers or market research analysts, but not for the internet research specialist. If you say you are an internet research specialist, usually it means you are a market research specialist for a lot of people, because this is the kind of definition that is there in the government or labor departments databases, and the type of recognized job descriptions that are commonly used includes market research when we are talking about internet research. So that is a confusion that is out there, but we like to rectify that and bring internet research specialist as someone who is capable of doing not only market research but everything else as far as online research is concerned. So product launch is one part where market research is applied, and these are the kind of reports or research that you can do, like product comparisons, competitive analysis, and so on. So these are the kind of reports or kind of engagements that market research would give you the opportunities for to collect. Then we've got the factors that play a part in project price determination, especially when you're building your research contracts. And some of the things that are mentioned here in bullet points are most important, and you wouldn't want to miss on any one of these, as these are considered fundamentals in figuring out what to charge your client. Because giving the wrong price or not using the conventional methods or pricing methods, that is for giving out proposals in response to the RFQs, is going to make or break your opportunities. Type of client and business obviously is something that you will look at. So there could be a lot of things that are involved in this, and the book has a better explanation or a more in-depth explanation for all of these, but I'm going to explain these in very short sentences so that we can cover it all. Type of client means nature of business. It's a startup, or is it a huge corporation? Is it a continuous project, something that they give off and on during the year? Is it seasonal? How big is the client or the size of the project? Is it ongoing project? Is it going to be short term, one time? The complexity of the project normally means that is it going to involve more people or more expertise, or is there going to be a specialized or a niche area for you to do your research, or is it just a standard industry research that you can compare and find the data for easily? Then you've got and of course complexity also means the type of analysis that you will end up doing, or the information sets you're collecting, what could be the complications in collecting that information, or how easy it is. Is it the nature of information that's going to make it difficult to collect, or is it the volume of information that needs to be collected? The volume of data, of course, means, as I explained, as part of the complexity, the volume of data means more resources might be required. It may not be difficult to collect, but it may require a lot of resource. The type of engagement, that means that if you are going to be one to one, or there's more than one parties involved in research, or are there different aspects of a specialized research under one umbrella or under one objective, then you have to distinguish between that and to create a sort of proposal that might include you having to work with a subcontractor as well. So that part, a self assessment of your hourly rates, that's most important in the sense of offering a price that would at least give you a break even opportunity and not give you a loss. So what is the minimum cost, which means your specialization, your cost, your cost as an individual being engaged, and then your human resource or the experts you have in your company, what type of rates you would charge for them. And and the rates that you charge should include cost plus. So minimum rate is to be determined. That means you cannot go below certain rate, and you get pressured into getting or accepting certain pricing from the client for whatever reason. But the important thing is that if you're going to end up having losses just because someone else that is competing in giving out quotations is pressuring you to go lower than what could be the minimum rate, then that is the kind of concern that would require for you to at least have a minimum, bare minimum cost that would not make your profit go into losses. Check for acceptable pricing methods. Just don't be out of the market and be giving out prices that are not considered conventional in the industry. Certain process or certain type of pricing are considered standard, whereas others may not be. Again, depending on the nature of the contract, if it is ongoing, short term, long term, complexity, and all that would also be a factor. But acceptable pricing would also mean that, let's say, you are going to do risk and reward as a pricing method. And risk and reward is means that you have to make sure that while you are giving your services at a very low margin, but at the same time you're aware that the client might become profitable or has a higher chance of being profitable in short term. And so you would strike a contract that says we'll give you a low cost or below our cost of delivering the service, but we will when the client is making money, you would want to become a shareholder of 5% or 10%. So that risk and reward is very exceptional. It's not something commonly used, and you don't want to be pressured into getting into that kind of contract. So the other pricing methods could be cost plus. For instance, if you're working for a client on regular basis where you've been engaged with them on long term contracts previously, the client trusts you, you trust the client, and so for that reason you could say that I would work with the client on cost plus, meaning that this is the bare minimum cost which I have determined that would not allow me to go into losses, yet I would add 20% to the cost as a fixed price plus 20% for my remuneration for services. So that could be another exception to the standard pricing. Now, what is standard price? Standard pricing is either project based, where you are giving a fixed price for the entire project or the cost of delivering services, or it could be a pricing that would on contracts that are on continuous basis, you will be billing your client on hourly basis. So depending on what type of pricing method you have chosen is important. The competition price and understanding the market pulse, to know you don't want to go too low on a pricing as well. Just because you've just started and entered into a market, you can go low to a certain extent, even if your overheads are low, and you feel that you can deliver at a much lower cost than everybody else, then that's not a good thing either. So to position yourself and to understand the worth of certain services, where you can give it a margin of discount depending on your relationship with the client, or the budgets of a client, you can only tweak it to a certain level, but don't go too low. That's what it means. Most acceptable billing methods. Now, versus costing. Billing method, as I mentioned to you, can be project based, time spent based, and so on. So the billing could all method also means like how frequently you're going to bill the client. Will you get mobilization advance, which means entering into a contract would also allow you to get something in advance, so you get the assurance from the client that for the our advance that they have given, as soon as it gets depleted or comes to a certain level, and given the milestone you have covered, then the client has to put the money back into the advance, or it could be a kind of an escrow account, or an account that would not be depleted, or would be um, they will keep getting the money back into it, as a process of using that advance against billing. So advance against billing is another method, and so all these are there. You can go through them, but we've looked at all the major ones. We've got to finish all this. Now, what is complexity of the research product? Ambiguity, the lack of, like, scope of research can be ambiguous, or it cannot be as elaborate. So you need to understand the research problem scope of research to know what the complexity level is. Length of the project, cost of project and budgets, volume of data source. It's just repeating some information that we have discussed already. But most important is the data source. Like, if the data source is going to be primary or secondary, it would have an impact on the cost, and at the type of information that your client needs, if it is verified, verifiable, or is it a secondary source, will be necessary for you to know what the complexity might be. Quality of data, meaning that if that data is maintaining its integrity, that means it is not diluted, or it is not influenced, or it is not collected in a massive way, like we do with the software, just collecting it, running softwares, but rather it is a vetted information. So integrity of data is going to play a part in determining the complexity. The data collection method, like surveys, polls, etc., collaborations, coordinations, and all. The agreed research method and methodology. So the methods and methodologies you're going to adopt will become part of your contract. You'll have to mention it in the same way, or in the same sequence of how it is initially been requested from you in the RFQ document. So you want to match everything, and don't leave anything loose or anything unattended as far as scope is concerned. So scope has to be clearly identified and figured out. Even the problem has to be clearly identified. Okay, so this is marketing strategy. You don't have to worry. Research outsourcing platforms. There's all sorts of outsourcing platforms as opportunity brings, especially in platforms like Upworks, People Per Hour, Elancer, and all these. These are mentioned as sources that you can tap into. And these outsourcing portal also means that they would have different sorts of requirements, not necessarily in the niche area that you are in, but would have opportunities like to give some opinions, or to just create a murmur in the social media, for instance, to look at the opinions and then comment on the opinions. And there could be all sorts of different sort of areas in which you could be engaged as an outsourced help for doing research work. Then we've got Yeah, these are just identifying some of the opportunity. Craigslist, Angieslist, you can, it's not very important, but since we are identifying opportunities, we are talking about these different venues online, especially in social media, that you can look up. Um, and Okay, now the other opportunities, when I'm talking about giving opinions, perform website testing, write reviews, there could be 10 different things attached to it, which means we are not just talking about specifically the research part in the sense of how the research is done fundamentally in finding information, but rather to deliver your own um, or to participate on your own, to deliver some expert opinions, or to be part of the organization that is using outsourced ghost participants, I'll call it ghost participants, meaning that a lot of times the presence or the volume of information is not delivered on the websites of even big organizations that are known for opinions, or certain forums, um, where you want to where the companies want to involve outside help. You can call them marketeers as well, come researchers that would put their opinions for them, or fill in the gap where there is not enough traffic built in yet, and they involve ghost users to actually create number of accounts on with different pseudonyms, and to give out opinions, but not necessarily as ghost researchers. You can even do it on your own as an individual, but they pay per account. So if you have one account, they'll pay you for uh, using one account. If you have three accounts, then they will pay you for. So usually people have 8 or 10 accounts that they create so that they can deliver more opinions in different names. Uh, and there could be testing websites, like you have to give your opinion as a user, so you can volunteer for that. So there's all kinds of opportunities. The technical feedback, if you're good at certain things that you can test, or products or services or software, you can give your opinion, or you can create videos like how to geek. Like I know that howtogeek.com used to be, like long time ago, we had some people who were working with us that used to create videos for how to geek, and they used to make good money. So all those things are there. um, the common ones that you will find, which are really the opportunities for a generalist, include all these, and this type of work is pretty common and easy to get. You can get it anytime. They may not pay you a lot of money, but at least this is for your getting some sort of experience working online, or getting some references. You may want to take up some of these assignments, like lead generation, data mining, data verifications, website content scraping, product pricing, product selection, and so on. Okay, so let's not spend a lot. This is the chart that I would recommend. Instead of you going through all of these slides, this is more like a summarized format. As an independent research, there is a generalist, there is subject specialist. The type of contracts, it is mentioned in these three boxes, and the references are given here for the sites that are delivering the kind of services that are mentioned in this box, like information aggregators, answering Q&As, research paper collection. All these are readily available, and the type of sites, or where you can go and find these type of work, you can go to these sites. Outsource platforms, offshore, inexpensive, bids oriented, like Upworks, People Per Hour, Elancer. Social networks, quick hiring, temps, contracts, employments. These are the opportunities. And under these two, you could see that there is a line that separates another box down here, which is telling you all those type of services that fall within these two platforms. And then contract with specialized or expertise or knowledge based research, you can find that these are the opportunities, or these are the reports or research that are commonly available, or that you can get or you can offer as a package. So I'm moving a little bit quickly right now. Then we've got the documents that are involved in contracting with the client. So the first document is research request. After that, you are going to deliver a response or give a research proposal. That's the second document. Third document is that you are going to draft a research contract. The fourth one is going to be the conclusion of research or research report that you're going to submit, and that will get approved for billing reasons. After this, you will give your final invoice, and all the samples of these documents are actually shown here in the book, starting with this one. So this is a request for proposal, and this is how you will find if the company is doing it in a more formal way, then they will create this document, as you can see right here. Again, this document is actually the initial or the first one that you will get for market research work, because we are following documents as a sequence in terms of what they represent. So we have used a market research document from the very start, starting from the request for quotes. And this is how the quotation request will show. It will give a company background, goals, and scope. And see, it is not a lot of information right here. um, Objective and the goals and scope are differentiated here. You will mostly find these typically appear in the proposal or request for proposal. Request project objective is important. Scope of work is again elaborated here. Collect business intelligence, best price determination. So business intelligence could be another set of, or it will require a methodology or an approach that you will have to put in your response to proposal. The best price determination for the client, meaning that they're probably positioning themselves for bringing a product out, or it is preliminary research for figuring out the feasibility of bringing this product that they intend to put out there. So it is a pre-launch product situation. So best price determination, evaluate product competition and its business market outlook. So here you are going to do industry research, you're going to do product research or product comparison or product analysis. Then the client will rely on data collection and data analysis as in quantitative research. And here they're going to define a little bit more, and these are the most important parts. So if the client data collection, data analysis, qualitative research as well as quantitative research of social media. So social media research, and it could be a very extensive kind of research also, because when you're talking about social media and you're talking quantitative, qualitative, there could be a length and breadth of that that could extend beyond what you would have considered or analyzed. So you have to do a research of your own or preliminary research to even reply to this request or reply to how you intend to conduct social media research. The research will also determine product utilization by a particular, so consumer research is going to be another part of it. So it looks like it's going to be a long term research and probably take more than 3 months, based on just quick analysis. So all I'm saying is it could be long term, it cannot be a and the type of reports they require are listed here. So this is RFQ, and then you're going to respond to it, and this is a continuation on response to RFQ. And it has got a table of content that you can see, giving background about you, like your capabilities, research problem, hypothesis, research objective. You're basically going to reinforce or just mention all that was in the RFQ first of all, perhaps best to utilize same terminology so there is no confusion. Name the report specifically that would be involved, so that the client is aware of it. In a way, this proposal that you return to the client is more educative to the client. Lot of times it narrows the gap between understanding of what the client perceives or expects versus what you will deliver in a more formalized way, and using the uh, I guess the industry well-known industry specific terminologies. It's important. This is the only way your client will know that you are a professional, or you know, or you are a true researcher, or you are the right person to choose. So research scope and all that is mentioned here. The research methods you will apply in quantitative research: for data collection, for collecting primary source, secondary source, and how you're going to perform quantitative analysis on that. Your qualitative methods are mentioned here. Who is going to be your research team? The timelines is important. Let me just click on the timeline here. Timeline is important because you're going to mention the different phases in planning stages. Um, you're going to give out what is involved in that. You're going to finalize research contracts, review scope, and then little bit more explanation as remarks on the right hand side. In the second phase, it's going to be data collection and procurement. Number of days is important because that's how you're going to determine the milestones. There could be pressured circumstances where the client is in a hurry or has a timeline given, but it could not be realistic. So you have to be clear at what stage would require what type of effort and how many number of days. And with all these phases mentioned, you would be able to give an evaluation of 60 days to complete the project, let's say. um,
Dr. Manzoor, this would be business days, like 14 business days.
I
Am I
don't
correct?
Yeah, it's just that I mean, you don't have to follow it exactly. The 10 days means that it could be working, it has to be working days. It can never be holidays. It'll always be working days. Then you've got cost of research. How you're going to bill the client. You will have to distinguish between the level of expertise that will be engaged, or your research staff. Level one, let's say, is an expert, and the rate is actually mentioned in the contract. You will also identify the expertise level based on the, well, on different factors like professional background, or the number of hours that will be spent by level 1 staff. Who is level 2 staff, who is level 3, identified number of hours, the expense that is involved. So anyway, this is a costing formula. You will put it in your your proposal request, that has let me see, hold on, what is it called? Got the name given to it, I'm sorry. It's called research proposal, RP. So in your research proposal, you will have to include all of this. See right here, your research team, who is involved in your research project that you will be engaging. You're going to mention that. So all these are mentioned here. You are going to identify clearly the surveys or the type of surveys you will do, like cross-sectional, longitudinal surveys. Remember the ones that I told you we didn't finish up. So this is standard research process, or the kind of language that is used in research work. So you're going to make sure that you make it very clear, and for those to be mentioned with reference to the type of research. Uh, anyway, the last part we are going to do is the research contract. So this is a market research contract. Now, who was asking me? I think Kentula was asking me if we can use this agreement, right? Or use the same agreement.
Yes, I do.
Hmm. So you
Yes,
can
it's
use
me.
this agreement if you like. Okay, it covers almost everything under the sun, or from our experience, or for what we have been using, or mostly what we have used is this contract, and we are sharing it with you. So if you feel that you want to use it, you're most welcome to do it. We are not going to sue
Well,
you for sure.
with clear modifications, right?
Yeah, with I mean,
Mhm.
whatever you're not going to use the
The
association. The
word
word
for word.
association. You're
Mhm.
not going to use AOFIRS. All right.
Gotcha.
So we've got market research services, contract compensation, and reimbursement. You have to mention it very quickly and very explicitly, and also at the same time look at what we have included in this. The research data procurement cost and any of other expenses that the association incurs in connection with performing this. So there is a lot of blanket sentences or wordings that not only make few things more flexible or give more room for you to add to the costs, or but at the same time it is flexible enough for the client to also understand that realistically there could be differences in what is quoted versus what gets billed to them.
Ah,
So all this
that's pretty
is,
good, huh, Dr. Manzoor? That's pretty good.
yeah,
Two hundred thousand dollars per hour. That's pretty good rate.
200,000 for the research services for the entire contract.
Just kidding.
So if it is per hour, then obviously it is something that I mean would involve a plane and and the transportation of something special. That would be like $200 an hour, I believe.
Probably this short or something like that. Was that line?
Indemnification. So the standard clauses like indemnification are always there. Intellectual property, like who the research will belong to or to what extent the research report be used, or what part of data can be reused, or what is your engagement with the source of your uh, information for using their content. That is all explained in intellectual property clause, and it is a very good clause, really. I mean, we have worked really hard on this one, and we have shortened it. It is always a good practice sometimes to shorten the contract as much as you can to cause less confusion, but at the same time use very powerful wordings, and all the legal aspects of it gets covered in the shortest possible way of writing or putting it into words. So I believe that the intellectual property part is really nicely identified. Confidential information, what is confidential. So all this is for reference and for you to learn and to read through. It's not that in the exams they're going to ask you to create a contract, but the type of question that you can expect is a differentiation between what is considered a content table for, let's say, your RF or response for proposal. Like they would show you this chart or at least this table of content and ask you what document has all of these in their table of contents, and you would say that it is request for proposal. Same way, they would ask some of the clauses in the contract and say that where these clauses belong. You would say that it belongs to a research contract down here, right? So you're familiar with what part of it or what clauses are actually connected with the research contract. And so that's about it. Pretty much we got the business of research covered, and this is very unusual that I cover it in such a short time, but it is compressed and it is now enough information that would allow you to attempt your exams. Just so that, did I show you the practice questions before, or did we practice with them at all previously, or no? I don't think so.
No, I don't. I haven't seen it.
Okay, so you will get a link to a platform called Class Marker, and the type of tests or the exams you will practice with. I'm just going to show you what those are. In fact, Kian, I gave you a link the other day. Let me use it on your behalf just to show them how it works. Let me try it. I'm going to log in with your account. So we've got Kian's. Okay. No. Kian.
You're talking about the CIRS exam?
Yeah, it's not letting me do that on
Okay.
this. Okay. So I'm just going to go to AOFIRS login and show you the kind of practice exams. I'm going to go to the question bank and going to do generic Q&A bank. So they will show up like this, or at least in fact, I don't think that we have a lot of time today. Let's do this part tomorrow. I'm going to show you the practice exams and give you the links for them as well tomorrow, so we can do few of these and take some of the questions from module 2 and attempt those, or maybe do some of these from business of research we did today. I intend to finish it as soon as possible. So tomorrow we'll do a little bit of practice on Q&A, so you get familiar with how the exams would look like. After that, I'm going to finish up the internet law and ethics. I've reserved Monday and Tuesday for that, and that should conclude everything in the syllabus as far as getting you prepared for CIRS. But tomorrow, I'm just going to do a little bit of CIRS exam practice to give you that comfort level. When you get the links, you should be able to attempt it and readily be comfortably be able to practice with it. So with this, I think I would, unless you have a question, let's just conclude
Dr.
today's
Manjur, I have
session.
one quick question before
Yes,
we
please go
go.
ahead.
Any updates on the printing, book printing?
Yeah, another thing is that Kian is now, as far as book printing is concerned, Kian, you got the price for something that you would be able to print, and it was coming out to be slightly like or around $100 for 600 pages of the book, that if any one of you wants to get printed, you should be able to do that. And Kian has the details of the person that is in actually Southern California, and the only added cost to $100 would be for the folders, because it's not in the shape of a book, but these are colored pages, 25-gram paper, which is pretty good, thick enough, and it would Kian, was it like $100? I don't want to quote anything wrong. Did we calculate $100 per book?
Yes, according to what we did the last time, that's what it came to. 24-pound quality paper was the source and color. And I gave you a max price for I think 5 or 6 books at least. However, I was thinking if you could be kind and at some point contact this person, perhaps you could fudge the numbers into getting a discount for bulk printing, or let's say 6 books, and then that on top of that, then we have to pay shipping, which is quite like the UPS ground unless somebody wants it faster. Then on top of that is he would ship direct, or I could pick it up and ship it.
So let's
However,
start with, okay, I got it.
yeah, thank you,
Now,
thank you.
Any one of you want a printed book first of all, or the?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
So how many of you? So I can, I can talk to the guy, whoever the guy is. Like I can talk to him tomorrow. So three books. I can hear three people mm, agreeing to it.
Akintola for one. Akintola for one.
Okay. So that's Akintola. Lauren needs one. Kian will take
And
one.
my yes,
Okay. So three books then. These are three books then, right?
3 books total. However, if you work out a bulk printing deal for your future printing,
Look,
then
first
it
of all,
could.
that's if I work with them on something that's separate. That's like, I mean, I can't commit to this fellow that, um, I don't want to make promises at this point to the person, but I can talk to him and see what is the best price they can give for these three printed books right now, and then we will work out a deal with them for future. If anybody wants it printed, maybe they can
And
just contact them and get a better deal because it is coming through our reference. You know what I'm saying? So that part I
okay,
can think of, but for now, in your mind, or in what I mean, let's suppose if it does give me a discount, what would you expect, Kian, in terms of money? How much less he would do? Maybe $5, $10 per book, not more than that.
Um,
I don't think so.
I'm not quite sure yet. You'd work the intricacies of based on future printing, but I've got written down here that he's going to do $104 per book. Now that's maximum price, he said. So perhaps if you do some explanation to him as to what exactly he's printing in terms of color and all that, he
I
would
see. I
then
see. Okay. All right.
adjust the price.
All right.
But do remember that it's just printing, so he's not punching any holes in there.
Right. Right. So anyway, so I'll talk to him tomorrow. Okay.
that will be the latest version of the book.
Oh, okay. Any other issues, Akintola?
No, no, that's what I wanted because you did
Yeah,
tell me
I'm
that's
not
a
an
new
agent
version
of
that's out there.
printing the book. First of all, I'm
Yes.
not even concerned about it. It's up to you guys
No,
to
this is your
figure it
book.
out. But
It's your book.
I'll check with this fellow that Kian is kind enough to let me know. So I'll talk to him tomorrow and let you know. And then rest of it is up to you. All right. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you,
Talk to
sir.
you and
And
see
you
you
too.
tomorrow. If any
Thank you
one
very
of
Have
you
a
much,
can't
nice
make
Akintola.
it
evening.
this,
Thank
okay,
Thank
you
you,
you.
too.
everyone. Have
Thank
a
you.
nice
Bye.
evening.
If any one of you
Bye.
can't
Thank you
make
very
it,
much.
let me know tomorrow. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you
Bye
very
bye.
much.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye.